Hello. What's up, Sandwich Nation? Andy here. I am without Ryan today, but it's okay. I'm sure he has barbecuing and lots of other things going on, so I'm excited for him. But welcome to another episode of What's a Sandwich? Today I'm here with David Chippi. We are going to be talking sandwiches that don't need salt. So we're talking low sodium sandwiches today. Really excited to have David on and talk sandwiches. He has a demo plan for us, lots in store. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on David.
Oop. Hey, Andy.
Hey, sorry, you were a little small there. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's a beautiful array of ingredients and buns and sauces in front of you there.
Yeah, you got to get prepped for the show, so I had to get some stuff made ahead of time for you.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being on. This is like way overdue. We've been talking about having you on here for a while, and I'm really happy to have you on with us today and to talk about your experience. Tell us, I guess, just to get things started, tell us a little bit about you and how you found yourself in the cooking world, things like that.
Well, I've been involved in food since I was about 3 years old. Most of it was watching my mom in the kitchen, my dad taking me down to the West Side Market in Cleveland to get meat and things like that. And I just and then I had to take care of my sisters because my mom went back to work, so I had to make their lunches, and that all just went into blackberry picking trips to make pies for my mom making pies. Then I got to college and nobody knew how to cook, and they thought I was like so great that I could make an entire Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm like, well, that's pretty basic stuff to me. Then I had a summer job working as a caterer. I also worked in an open air market all through high school with produce and everything like that. So it's been a big influence. And then I ended up teaching cooking classes for about 7 years here in the Cleveland area. And most of it was barbecuing. And so life for me has been all about food, and food makes people happy, and it makes me happy when they like what I cook.
Yeah, yes. Agreed. Agreed in so many ways. Well, that's awesome. So you live in Cleveland, Ohio, right?
Yep.
So tell me a little bit. So I guess in Cleveland, like, what's the big sandwich? Like, what is the sandwich of Ohio? Like, what's popular around you there?
Well, we could talk about this in a minute. You're going to ask me what I think a sandwich is, but I remember going down to the bars when I was younger, and the biggest thing down there was a euro for $3. They have all these euro stands, and at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, you're grabbing a euro. That may not be exactly a sandwich, but it was a big thing there. In Cleveland, they don't really have much street food anymore. It's all fancy, higher end restaurants for older people now. But for me, sandwich making was part of the process of the low sodium journey.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that. I know you've got a big focus on low sodium. So how did you find yourself, cooking in that fashion, and a little bit of background on that?
Well, it was kind of thrust upon me in 2018. I was diagnosed with heart failure.
Okay.
So I had to do two things. I had to change my lifestyle, which meant no drinking, any alcohol, and then eating a low sodium diet. I remember coming home from the hospital, and my family cleaned out all my seasonings that had salt in them, which, like Lawry seasoned salt, big salt one, but there was almost nothing in my cupboards.
Wow.
And so I was eating salads and fresh fruit and plain baked potatoes for like 3 months. And I said, I can't live like this anymore. So I've got to do some research and figure out alternatives for all the food that I love. And sandwich making was a big one because you you can't eat a sandwich with the buns in the store or the tortillas or the pita bread or the lunch meat or the cheeses. And so then you can't have a sandwich. So I learned how to make my own lunch meat. I learned how to bake. I never baked before, and I make my own buns and my own pita bread. And I just keep everything in the freezer and take it out when I want it. And now I can have a regular sandwich just like everybody else, but no sodium.
Wow, that is crazy. I mean, what a whirlwind and life change in that alone. I mean, I I yeah, that's mind blowing. I don't know if I would be able to do it. I mean, I guess I would have to find a way because I do absolutely love sandwiches. I love bread. Um, but yeah, exactly. Like you got to find a way, and that's good for you, man. That's really inspiring.
One,
Really
one,
inspiring to hear.
one example, the FDA recommends about 2,300 milligrams of salt a day. One slice of Costco pizza has 1,770.
Whew.
So
Whew. Man, well, for those that are listening, watching, that puts things in perspective. I was at Costco this weekend and I avoided the pizza, but I love that pizza. So,
I used to as well. But if I eat it now, because my palate has changed, it's like way over compelling salt. It's not even flavorful to me anymore.
wow. So, okay. So that brings up an interesting point. So, now that you've gone through like this big change and now you're very low sodium, if you have something that's overly salty or like something that maybe someone else made, like you can pretty much very quickly identify like, wow, this has a lot of sodium in it. Like you have a
I
palate for that
I
now.
can yeah, I can taste it. My wife and I went out to dinner Friday night, and I forgot to tell the chef no sodium. And I'm like, I had these lamb chops, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know.
Yeah.
And if I have too much salt, it makes me feel just uncomfortable. It's like I call it the salt rush.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I know when I've had too much salt.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think if anything, like that's something I feel like I need to watch more and like maybe make that more a part of my own life is less salt, like less is more. But also knowing what those low sodium foods are, like the Costco pizza. Every time I see that now, no offense, because of you, I'm gonna second guess that slice, and probably some other pizzas that I love as well. But so kind of going on a little bit more of your low sodium journey. I know you have a couple of cookbooks. So was that part of the process of you getting into this world, or is that kind of like afterwards and like where you found yourself, cooking?
Yeah, it actually the books were a byproduct. It was because of COVID. So after I started posting, I found out on Instagram there's a huge community of people who have different ailments that require them to eat low sodium. So my sister-in-law said, "Why don't you get an Instagram account?" Which I never had one. I'm an older guy, and she says, "Post your food." So I started posting the food, and then I got, because I'm an engineer, my background, I'm like, I got to get these pictures looking good, and I upped the appearance of my food, and it really stepped up my game. I researched and did a lot of work to figure out how I can make things that people would normally eat. And I started collecting all these photos. Well, then COVID hit. So all my boys were home from college and they're playing video games. And I'm like, well, let me organize these photos into categories. And then I'm like, I read a book on a plane that said, that style of writing should be good for a cookbook. So I took all my short stories of everything, some of the things I just told you, and I wrote it into a cookbook and a cooking guide and recipes. So it teaches, if someone reads my books, it teaches them how to live the lifestyle of low sodium. I have a meat slicer, I got a vacuum sealer, I've got a dehydrator, I got a sous vide, I've got a sous vide fancy oven. I have all these things that you would use to live that lifestyle. And then I have you all the recipes to teach you how to make low sodium food. And people think, oh, you just eliminate the salt. No, the problem is when you eliminate salt, you've got to enhance the flavor with other spices and other ingredients, you got to like kick that up a huge notch so that the flavor comes through when the salt's gone.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, going back to the book too, like that to me, that is easier to remember this knowledge, as opposed to just like, I did HelloFresh for a little while and like, it's just a recipe, like, and then you have all these cards everywhere, like just a book of just recipes, like to have context, that really means something. And actually, Zach here has got a question. Where can someone find your book? Is it on your website or where could we find that?
Yeah, who needs salt.com. You can find the book and order it on there and pay with credit card, PayPal, or whatever you're looking for. And I do all the shipping. So, if I get an order, I'll ship out a book.
Awesome. Well, I've got it on the screen here. Who needs salt.com. And then if anyone wants to follow David on Instagram, your Instagram account is at DJ Chippi, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So DJ Chippi on Instagram. So yeah, make sure to follow him. Your photos are beautiful, by the way. You sent me a couple today, and I'm just like, man, I need to get to this barbecue situation as soon as possible.
All those photos I post are taken with my iPhone 13 Pro Max. So, but I've done photography, so I understand lighting and all that kind of stuff to get some good photos.
Cool. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. So where did you find yourself in the photography world? Was it because of food or, tell me a little bit about that.
No, I started making wedding videos for people way back using Final Cut Pro on my Apple computer. I've done some, a bunch of live video streaming. If you remember the guy named Glenn Beck,
yeah.
He's a radio show. I was physically at one of his rallies many years ago and talked my way into a media pass. And I had another friend, and we had two different camera angles, and I self-produced a DVD of his event, which was kind of cool. In my kitchen behind me, years ago, I had two crazy friends, and we filmed a bachelor cooking DVD, and I self-produced that as well for fun. I had cameras mounted to the cabinets and everything. So for me, video editing is something that I've done for many, many years. And then of course, photography came with that as well. And so when the food pics needed to be looking good, I was already ahead of the game a little bit. And then I've got a friend who's an actual photographer, so he comments on when I have a good one that he likes.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so interesting. I think the more interviews that I've done about, like cooking and just chefs, sandwich world, like all of this, I found that there's a lot more like other creativity that comes with cooking in the kitchen, because it's not just creativity with food, but then you've got the creativity where you want to show people your masterpiece, and like you want to remember what you created. So Joe Gatto is one of my previous guests, and he and I share the same love for film and things like that, and I never realized like how creative really just like cooking is in general. So yeah, it's a creative world,
my job takes me all over the world. I've been to a lot of places on people's bucket lists, like Istanbul and Paris and Brazil and Bangkok and all that. And China, I go to China a lot. Well, not recently, but I always come home and try to make something that has an influence from the place that I visited. And on my bucket list, I was able to travel to Italy and go to Astoria Franciscana, which is the #1 Michelin ranked restaurant in the world. It cost me 450 euros for my meal, but it was amazing.
Yeah, I've always wondered what it would be like to go to a restaurant like that. I mean, was it any different than any other fancy restaurant, or was it just like it was more about the food and like it was just in that type of setting?
It was a 12-course tasting menu, and I'm pretty good at deconstructing food that I have when I eat out. There is nothing on his menu I could deconstruct at home. And
Wow.
it was the flavor, but it was a story about what was being presented. So it was an experience, not just the
Wow.
food. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I would love to do that one day. So do you have any plans of going anywhere else in the world coming up soon, or uh,
I'm going to Brazil to see a customer of mine in Pelotas, which is 100 miles north of Uruguay, first week in December. And
ooh,
if you want to
perfect
talk salt, the Brazilians know how to put salt on meat.
time. Yeah, yeah. So how's that gonna go for you? Are you gonna just try to not have any salt, or are you gonna just kind of take it, or how's that gonna go?
It's going to be salads for me.
Okay,
But
okay,
my customer has a barbecue pit in his house, and he'll make meat for me and in the barbecue, and he won't salt it for me.
got it, got it. Cool. Well, I guess getting a little bit back to the sandwiches, we were kind of hinting at it earlier. Tell me, so I ask this every time someone's on the show. What what is a sandwich to you?
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone about this, knowing that you were going to ask me. And I started out by saying anything that's kind of like handheld that's a meal. But you've got to rule out things like pita or like pizza or maybe even a euro, because that may not be a sandwich. But the other day I made my son some lunch and I wrapped everything you'd put in a sandwich in iceberg lettuce. So a lot of people say sandwich has to have bread, and
Hmm.
I disagree. As long as it's a stacked meal of sorts of different ingredients, to me it's a sandwich.
So the act of sandwiching something
Yes,
makes something a sandwich.
yeah, because a hot dog can't be a sandwich. It's a hot dog. It's its own thing. But the act of putting things together in a way that you can hold it and eat it with one or two hands is a sandwich to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I'm getting more into. I feel like I've realized there's like an action, and then there's like the noun, right? Like
Yeah,
the verb and the noun of sandwich. And I feel like there's like people are leaning more towards the verb or leaning more towards the noun. There's really like no in between. I feel like I'm more towards the action. So I'm a little bit more inclusive when it comes to the sandwich world, but yeah, the euro is like a perfect argument for both sides. I've seen it on a menu at a Greek place saying euro sandwich, but then I've seen it like, somewhere else and it's saying just euro. It's just a euro, just like a hot dog. So it's like, I don't know, but in my opinion, I think a euro is a sandwich. That's just me.
yep.
Um, so
I don't know if any of your prior guests have talked about this, but there's a couple of things to sandwiching that's important. You have to build vapor barriers when you build a sandwich. Like for example, if we're going to make a citrus salad to put on the sandwich we're going to make today, and if you let the liquid seep into the bun, then it gets really messy. If you make a Reuben and you let the liquid from the meat get seep into the rye bread, then it gets messy. So you have to build vapor barriers, and things that are your friends are cheese or maybe a whole slice of lettuce. So constructing it, and then there's textures and colors. So you want to mix it up a bit so that you're not just having one simple turkey sandwich. So when I build my sandwiches and put them on Instagram, there's a lot of thought that goes into the color and the different textures as well as the tastes.
yeah, yeah, your Instagram photos are very colorful. They're beautiful. Um, so I would entirely agree, and actually, I think that's something I need to up in my sandwich game. So hopefully, today when you go through your demo, we can kind of see those layers and how people can do that at home. So I guess talking a little bit about the demo that you're going to do today. So tell us a little bit about the sandwiches that you're planning to build today.
We're going to build two sandwiches. Most of the prep work has been done because it takes too long to do on the show, but we're going to use my no sodium bun on a seared tuna with a citrus salad. And then I've got various sauces that you can choose from to put on those, and we'll talk about what I made. All of them are low sodium sauces, and they're all made. I made them all. And then we're going to make my favorite style sub. If I was to pick a sub sandwich that I used to love, it's an Italian sub. There's just something about that I just really love. But we're gonna use my own low sodium turkey, and we're gonna cheat a little bit. We're gonna put some pepperonis on there to add the Italianness to it, and it's on a no sodium pita. So we're just gonna make a couple of simple things to give you some ideas in terms of making your own sandwich. But I was talking about the vapor barrier. This is a bun that I put some butter on, and I just browned it in the pan. And then it's maybe hard to see, but I melted a piece of Swiss cheese on the bottom bun, thinking about my vapor barrier. So we're gonna make that. And I'm gonna show you the citrus salad. I made this originally for an appetizer, ahi tuna appetizer. And what I did is I went to Farmer Jones Market, which is in Huron, Ohio, and they're very famous for their microgreens, and they ship them all over the world to fancy restaurants. And so I got some microgreens here and some microgreen arugula, and you just put them in a bowl.
And real quick on microgreens.
Mm-hmm.
So what are microgreens? Is it just like fancy salad or sorry.
No. Microgreens are basically the saplings of anything that you would eat. Broccoli, arugula, all the vegetables that we eat that are in big sizes, they stop them from growing after 2 weeks, and they pick them. Every 2 weeks they're picking. And they're supposed to have a lot of nutrients in it. So we make a lot of salads with them, So this is my arugula and some other microgreens. There could be cilantro in here. There could be broccoli. They make a salad mix. And I've got some radishes that I just kind of julienned up and I put in there. Again, we're talking about the texture. So I got that. I've got a mixture of lemon juice, lime juice, and orange juice that I'm going to put in here, which makes it the citrus part. And then there is a little bit of a cheat move on this regarding salt, but there's no way around it. These are capers.
Okay.
Capers do have salt, but it's not the end of the world, And then I have some shredded endive lettuce. This is the endive that's left from what I was shredding earlier. And I put in there. Endive to some people can be bitter, but I usually slice it in half and grill it and put goat cheese on it. And the goat cheese helps remove the bitter flavor. So basically, yeah, you would make this citrus salad maybe 30 minutes ahead of time, and you just put it in the fridge. Let the citrus kind of wilt the microgreens or regular salad or romaine or anything that you want, and just let it wilt in there for about 20 minutes or so, half hour, and then you'll be good to go. So this is very simple. We're going to take some of this and we're going to put it right on our bun just like that. And then, excuse me, I took and seared a fresh tuna steak right in the pan with some sesame oil, some ginger powder, so a little bit of olive oil, and some black pepper. And I just seared it on both sides, and then I put the cover on to let it kind of cook through so that it's not kind of raw in the middle. And then basically just put it right on top there. Now,
that's a meaty tuna steak.
Yes, that is a big one. Now, for the dressings that you could use for this, I made a sriracha mayo. It's just sriracha, mayonnaise, and you decide how hot you want it. I also have a peach mango preserves that I put sriracha in. and I just mixed it up again. So you've got the sweetness and you've got the heat with that. I also made a dill sauce, which has dill, sour cream, and mayonnaise, and a little bit of lemon juice in it. So you could choose that. I made a tartar sauce, some lemon juice, some mayo. I chopped some of my pickles that I make myself with no salt to put in there. And so you can use the tartar sauce. And then there's everybody's favorite honey mustard. It's basically yellow mustard, Dijon mustard, some honey, and some yellow mustard. It's what McDonald's serves with their chicken nuggets, basically.
Yeah.
So you can put in, whatever sauce you want. And what I did was I made rosemary fries. And
oh man, that sounds
all I
awesome.
did was take fresh rosemary from my herb garden. I put it in olive oil in a bag, sliced up the potatoes, let it soak overnight, and then I drained it and I baked it at like 450 until it's golden brown. And then you really get a good rosemary flavor for that. And so I got some of my pickles that you can see here. And then I have some of the sriracha mayo that I put here. And so I just played it nice. This would be something I would take a picture of and put on Instagram. So, something like that is, other than the capers, there's almost no salt. And oh, by the way, all proteins have salt because they're living animals. But if you find in the grocery store, whether it's fish, chicken, beef, pork, whatever, everything, or turkey, everything's going to have about 65 milligrams of sodium per 6 ounces. You just can't get away from that. But that's very little. So this would be something that I would serve myself or friends or family if they came over. So it's rosemary, baked French fries with a seared tuna steak on a citrus microgreen sandwich.
Man, that just I'm like drooling over here. I'm ready to eat. So capers, I didn't realize that capers normally have sodium in them. Is that because of how they're stored, or is that just like naturally occurring with capers in
No,
general?
it's how they're stored. They're
It's how they're
pickled.
stored.
They're pickled berries off the plant, which I forget the name of the bush, but they
Sure.
pickle them, and so it's in a pickle brine, and that's where the salt comes from.
Awesome.
But
Okay. Yeah.
it's a unique flavor that just really kicks up that citrus salad. So a little bit of salt's not going to harm me. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's right. And actually, just as a side comment, everyone's loving the top view. So thank you so much for that idea. Joe Gatto actually is in here, and Cecily loved it as well. Cecily Storm, my sister-in-law. Yeah. So this sandwich sounds absolutely delicious. So I guess as far as the sauces go, oh, thanks, Joe. Joe, so the plant is I can't pronounce this, but I'm gonna try. Capari spinosa is the
Yeah.
plant,
Yeah. Yeah.
also
There you
called
go.
finder's rose.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So for the sauces, so there's no sodium in these sauces that you just described, right?
There's a little bit of sodium in the mayo, but sriracha has almost no sodium. Mustards have no sodium, and the peach mango preserves have no sodium. So you're
Okay.
going to get a little bit of salt from the mayo. It comes from the yolk of the egg. Again, it's a protein, so you're getting a little bit of salt. But when
Okay.
you're talking about a tablespoon, and it's very minimal. So this entire meal right here probably has 65, maybe 150 milligrams of sodium. Now, if you bought this bun in the store, it's going to be 300 milligrams. And
Wow.
if you bought French fries or you salted them, it's going to be hundreds of milligrams of sodium. So with the no sodium bun, a little bit of sodium comes out of the capers, but not too much because you only have a few in there.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy. Like the difference, right? Just even the bun alone. Like I never would have I don't know why, but I just never would have thought that there was so much sodium in bread, but like now
Oh, Well, when you buy the hot dog buns and the tortillas and hamburger buns from the store and you put them in your cupboard, they'll be fine for 2 months later. It's the salt.
It's the salt that's keeping them.
My bread I have to keep in the freezer. My pita breads, my tortillas, my buns, I just keep in the freezer because they will go moldy after about 3 days.
Got it. So do you make do you make bread like pretty much every week then, or?
No, my wife hates it because I mess up the kitchen, so I do all this in batches. When I make
Okay.
these buns, it's usually on a day she has a long day at work, so she's not home and doesn't see me. And then I'll make like 16 buns and then put them in bags in the freezer and then pull them out and microwave them 30 seconds, and they're as fluffy as as you almost as you buy in the store.
Yeah, I mean that bun right there looks beautiful. It's nice and fluffy.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's awesome. So we've got the tuna steak sandwich. So what's up next? What's your demo here?
So this one's what I call my turkey Italian pita. So I make the pita myself, like I said before. Again, the vapor barrier. So I already pre-did some of this work, but the first thing I do is I take a slice of Swiss cheese. By the way, when it comes to cheeses, Swiss cheese is the lowest sodium one you can get. The other creamy cheeses are low in sodium, like goat cheese and brie, but all the other cheeses are full of salt. So I put a slice of Swiss cheese down first. I took my turkey lunch meat, put it on top of that. I took 6 thin sliced pepperonis, put it on top of that. I baked it just to warm it up in my oven. And then basically I got these heirloom tomatoes, which I'm loving these heirloom tomatoes from Farmer Jones Farm because they're very meaty. And so you just basically take your tomatoes and you get your onions. Vidalias are the sweetest, or you can get white ones, which Vidalias are kind of a little bit out of season right now. And then I have some shredded iceberg lettuce that I enjoy putting on here. And then, one of the things about Italian subs is the sub oil that they put on it. Well, there's a bunch of salt in there. Like, for example, my favorite dressing used to be Olive Garden's dressing.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's 930 milligrams of salt in the Olive Garden dressing. So basically, I use some olive oil, and it's down under the cupboard. I won't get it, but I'll put a splash of vinegar, white vinegar, on there, and then I'll put some fresh cracked pepper, black pepper, on there, and then I've got some dried basil put on there. And then I've got some dried oregano that we'll put on there. And the last thing, excuse me a moment, is a little bit of white light mayonnaise. Just drizzle on like that. And then what you do is just fold it up like that. And there you go.
That. Oh man, that is delicious looking.
and when I eat this, I feel like I'm eating an Italian sub. To me, this is like my go-to lunch. I work from home, so I get to eat these a lot.
Yeah, no, that sounds good to me. That was like my go-to sandwich. I hate to say this, Subway. I would go to Subway and get the BMT until they. That's a whole thing. I'm not even going down that road.
No, that was the one I used to get when I ate there, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't stand Subway anymore. But yeah, there's much better things than Subway out there. So so
now, I want to mention, if I was serving this for myself, I would get I love kettle cooked chips, and these are unsalted. I think there's 2 milligrams of salt in the serving here. You and I were talking earlier before the show, but my favorite chips are kettle cooked jalapeno, but those have a lot of salt. So I made a journey to make my own jalapeno dust and a
Ooh.
barbecue flavored dust.
Okay.
And basically, I didn't know this, but you can get vinegar in a powder form. So in here is some black pepper, some powdered jalapeno, powdered vinegar, some garlic and onion powder. And then what I'll do is just sprinkle it on my chips. And so I can enjoy my favorite chips. The barbecue will have cayenne pepper, smoked paprika, again, the powdered vinegar. And I just keep containers of these around and pull out the chips and dust them. And then, I get the flavors that I used to love without the salt.
That's awesome. So where did you find the powdered vinegar at? Is that like on
Um,
like an
I,
online store?
I go to Amazon.
Okay.
I just found it somewhere, and it comes in a big jar, and I was playing around with the proportions and came up with something I like. It's almost like 2 to 1 vinegar to 1 part jalapeno powder.
Cool.
And I just, all the containers in my house for seasonings are all those huge ones because of all the seasoning I told you that I use when I do my cooking. I go
Yeah.
through I go through lots of pepper and lots of the seasonings. So especially when I'm making my turkey and roast beef lunch meat or pork or something like that.
Very cool. Yeah. Joe here in the chat said you can make vinegar powder at home as well. I'd love to know how that's done. Joe's infamous for making things from scratch, so I'll have to ask him how that's done. But that'd be really really interesting to know how to do. So as far as salt and salt and vinegar chips are huge at my house. So
Yep.
have you ever tried making that like a low sodium version of that?
Well, you could do that. You would just have to use finely granulated salt. And one of the other things is MSG has 40% less sodium in it. So I keep a container of MSG that, the Chinese like to use MSG and everything. People thought it was bad for you, but it's not. That's been debunked. But it has 40% less. So when I salt something, I'm usually dusting the top of it and not putting it in the ingredient. So if I have a burger and I'm feeling like a little bit of salt, I'll just do a quick dusting on the top of the burger so that the first thing your tongue tastes is the salt, and you think it's salt all the way through, but it's not.
Got it.
I have
Okay.
some powder. I'm gonna make sour cream and onion dust. I just have to get around to do it, but I've got the powder for that one.
Cool. Yeah, let me know how that goes. We actually have a question here about lunch meats. Is there a particular brand of lunch meat that you like getting that's low sodium?
The only low sodium that I've seen in the grocery stores recently is turkey. It's fairly low sodium, and I probably could get away buying it for myself, but I like making my own. So I will go and I'll find Amish turkeys that are unsalted. When you pick up the chicken packets and the turkey packets in the grocery store, you have to look to see whether it's organic and if they've injected any sodium into the thing. So I get Amish turkey from Plainville, New York is a brand that has the turkey that I use. Mine, I buy it boneless breasts. I season them and I sous vide them, and then I let them cool, and then I slice them and I package them into vacuum seal bags. I freeze them and I just take out packets whenever I need them. This would be a vacuum sealed packet that I took out for today, and you can reseal these bags, and so they'll last for several weeks in the refrigerator.
Cool. So with all this different thanks Carla for the question. So with all the low sodium, I guess like foods that you've been eating, I mean, other than obviously like health wise things have stabilized for you. What other benefits have you noticed making this big life switch?
Well, one of the things that is natural is you're not using any processed foods. It's all fresh ingredients because everything is processed. If you go to the store and buy tomato sauce, the same brand tomato sauce that has petite tomatoes or chopped tomatoes or diced tomatoes, all those have salt in them. But their pureed one is like no sodium. I don't understand why they add salt to the other ones. So I would say for me, because salt makes the heart work harder, and it's a blood pressure problem for most people. So what I'd say is I use all fresh ingredients, lots of fruits and vegetables in my cooking, and nothing processed. So I'd say I'm eating healthier. Even if I wanted to put salt on the food, I'm still eating healthier.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, no, it it's this conversation's really making me think about everything that I have at home, which is like a lot of processed food. Like I'm about to have some brats tonight, and I mean it came from a butcher, so maybe it'll be a little bit better, but who knows? So yeah, I mean this is really kind of eye opening. I hope that the people that are listening to this, found something in this too to kind of help, especially as we head into the holidays. Tell me a little bit about the holidays for you, because to me, the holidays are super rich foods, lots of salt everywhere. Like how do you avoid it? Like how do you get through? Um,
Well, I will show up to family gatherings with a bag of my own food. Uh,
okay.
so if it's my turn to host Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, I'll have to cook like normal people cook, and then I'll have something on the side for me. So if I make steaks, ribeye steaks, I'll salt everybody else's, but I'll put mine on the side. If we're making turkeys, I'll buy the regular turkey that has salt in it, and I'll just eat something else like my own no salt turkey lunch meat or something. So I have to adapt, because if you ate like me tomorrow, you would find the food to be very bland, but over the course of 3 months, your palate would adjust and it wouldn't be as bland. So I have to adjust. And I always show up whenever we go out of town, I'm bringing food with me. When I go to China to visit my colleagues, I will have two suitcases, one with clothes and the other one's full of food. So that, because when I go to China, there's a lot of sodium over there.
Oh yeah.
The one ingredient that is nearly impossible to replicate without salt is soy sauce.
Okay, yeah.
I call it liquid salt.
It literally is. Like, I don't know how it gets the color that it has, but it's literally liquid salt.
It comes from the fermented fish that's used as the base to produce it. That's where the browning comes from.
Got it. Got it. Um, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I like that alone. When I have sushi, like too much soy sauce, Andy. Too much soy sauce. I
I
need to
just
back
I,
off.
I like the ginger, and I like the ginger with my sushi. So I don't even use soy sauce when I eat sushi.
Yeah, and maybe that's my route, because I used to be afraid of the ginger, and now it's everything. Like I can't get enough of everything. So yeah, maybe I need to make that switch. Just push the little soy sauce dish off to the side and move over to the ginger, and save myself. I don't even know. Like, do you know off the top of your head how much like a teaspoon of soy sauce is? Like, it's
Oh, it's
probably insane.
yeah, it's just a teaspoon. A teaspoon of salt, by the way, is about 2,300 milligrams. So soy sauce teaspoons about 2,300 milligrams. I went to a restaurant and they had it was vegetables and like chicken, and I'm like, oh, that'll be fine. Um, it had 4,500 milligrams of salt in the dish, and it was because they put soy sauce in there. I had to give it away and I ordered something else, but that's like an entire week of salt for me, because I eat between 500 and 1,000 milligrams a day.
Okay. And what so is that like the recommended average, or is is do normal people do like a higher, I don't know, it's like someone like me who's just like not paying attention, like what's the average,
You're
do you know off the
probably
top of your head?
you're probably eating 4 to 6,000 milligrams a day because it's all in the processed food.
Hmm.
I nursed my heart back to being healthy, but I stuck with the low, and I can eat salt if I want, but I stuck with the low sodium because I felt I was eating much healthier.
Yeah.
If a normal person wants to eat a low sodium diet, they'll probably drop down to 1,500 a day. When I was sick, and they sent me home from the hospital, they said eat under 2,000 milligrams. So
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I gotta keep all these things in mind. I mean, it's like, I don't like, I don't know how else to say it, but it's like almost like the invisible killer. You just don't really think about it, you know? It's not something that I think about when I'm eating, but I should. I
that
should be.
hypertension is one of the main killers in terms of heart disease, and it comes from eating a lot of salt.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me. Um, so with the last I think we got like 15 minutes here. So tell me a little bit. You mentioned that you had a lot of like international travel that you've done in the past. Tell me about some, have you had any exotic sandwiches from other countries in your travels?
They Other countries don't tend to make sandwiches, but like if you go to Copenhagen or you go to Germany, I usually say, and sorry if I'm going to offend anyone on here, but I say the food starts great in Italy, and the more north you go, the worse it gets. Um, so the one thing I've noticed is the European sandwiches tend to be like one thin slice of meat, and the rest is just bread.
Uh-huh.
And so I found those sandwiches in Europe to be very frustrating because here we want a bunch of meat and a little bit of bread on our sandwiches. So there are regions that have certain foods that are put in sandwiches, but I'll give you one thing that's a non-sandwich. That's one of my favorite street foods in China. Is they deep fry crawfish in a spicy oil, and they serve it to you in a cookie sheet, and you sit there and peel off the tails, and you just eat it like we would eat wings. And crawfish is good because it's a freshwater crustacean, so it's very low sodium. But yeah, so sandwiches aren't huge in outside the United States like they are here when you
Okay.
travel.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Like the only international travel I've done was my wife and I, our honeymoon when we got, when we got married. Um, and it's funny you said uh that like they're like frustrating sandwiches or something like that. I was very frustrated with the sandwich that I had when we were in um Switzerland. We were in what was that? Lucerne. They There was like this deli, and it, typical like counter and everything. There's all these different things, and so they had a sandwich that you could order. I didn't realize though when they gave me this sandwich, like you said, just this little like dainty little strip, almost like prosciutto, like
Right.
very thin, like fatty meat with a like I basically was like a cracker for bread. So I bit it and it just snapped. Like, um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like the American thing to put everything between two pieces of bread or whatever. But
There was
yeah,
a deli. There was a deli in downtown Kansas City many years ago when I lived there, and it was your authentic Italian deli. These guys are wearing what we would call wife beater T-shirts, and they got
yeah,
hair coming out. But the poor boys that they made made in that deli were phenomenal, and the meat was stacked like an inch high, and it had these fabulous hoagie buns to go with it. But I remember that deli, and that was awesome deli down there. That's a real
that sounds
sandwich.
that sounds amazing. So if you had to pick a sandwich right now that's kind of in your wheelhouse, like if you were forced to order a sandwich right this minute, it could be any sandwich. What is your go-to? Like what is your sandwich today?
I was out the other day and I splurged on the hot chicken sandwich, Nashville hot chicken.
Okay.
One of the things when you're eating low sodium, spiciness is a supplement. It kind of like stands in there instead of sodium. So I like spice. So the Nashville hot chicken, if I was to order something, it'd be something like that. Of course, it's gonna, the 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 dressing on there is going to be full of salt, but and this coleslaw is going to have some salt in it, and the bun, of course, you can't get away from any of that. But I'll eat one of those, and I have some water pills, they call it, that helps me. Helps Lasix helps me get rid of salt through
Okay.
going to the restroom. So I'll just if I have too much salt, I'll eat one of those, and I'll be fine. But Nashville hot chicken's a good one.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah,
Or
I don't.
or chicken parm. I like chicken parm a lot.
Oh, I haven't had that in a while, but that actually sounds really good. I might have to try that sometime soon. Somewhere I have to find. I'll have to look around and see who's making a good one around here. But well, well, awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on. Tell everybody again where they can find your book.
You can find my book at whoneedssalt.com, and you can follow me on Instagram at DJ Chippi at DJ Chippi on Instagram. And then, of course, all my pictures get posted automatically to Facebook. I don't really go on there much, but they post automatically there. Yeah, and it's a 2-book set. The first book has all the short stories and about 12 recipes for the foundational items that you need to live low sodium. And then the second book is full of recipes only. There's about 70 in here, all categorized, all breads and meats and fishes and things like that. And I try to replicate things that I like. Like, if you go to Olive Garden, you want a soup, I've replicated a soup. The bread, the Longhorn Steakhouse brown buns, I've replicated those in there.
Ooh.
Pretty much everything that I've eaten outside, I replicate and build a low sodium recipe for. So gumbos, some soups, and different kinds of things that normal people are going to eat. And then I love cheesecake, so I've got some desserts in here. This is a Fruity Pebbles cheesecake.
Oh.
So, and then biscuits and gravy, because I make my own breakfast sausage as well, and a lot of root vegetables. You can see that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's lots of things that you would normally eat, like one slice of bacon wrapped salmon medallion right there. So,
Awesome. Yeah, I flipped through. Thank you so kindly for sending me the digital copies of your books. Yes, you got everyone listening, everyone on here. Yes, go check out David's book. Go learn more about reducing the sodium in your life. This is this conversation right here is eye-opening for me.
oh yeah,
And
I should mention you mentioned it, but the books are available in print, or there's a digital download, so you can have it
digital
on your
download.
iPad if you want.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah, I feel like in this day and age, I can't tell which one's better. Sometimes it's just nice to have a book too. But well, thanks so much, David, for being on, and for everyone that joined us here in the chat, asking questions, and those that are listening. Like David said, check out his websites, check out his book, follow him on Instagram, please. And yeah, thanks so much again for being on with us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody. This is another episode of What's a Sandwich. Hope you all have a awesome Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you next time. Keep eating those sandwiches.